where are we starting? We can start in Italy.
We're going to start in Italy. Boom.
Boom, right off the bat. One of the biggest matches we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, so Perugia absolutely laid the smackdown on Trentino this past weekend. It was a rematch of the semifinal of the Super Cup, which the Super Cup, for those who don't know, is like the preseason or like early season tournament that a lot of the European leagues do. And Trentino absolutely whooped Perugia 3-0 in that one. But now in the regular season this past weekend, Trentino, without Alessandro Micheletto, got basically curb stomped by the service pressure of Wilfredo Leon. Matt Anderson was really, really efficient, like very quietly, but very effectively efficient. No errors, 9 kills and 13 attempts. So it was one of those classic Wilfredo Leon games. We've all seen those if you've been watching Wilfredo Leon for a couple of years, where he just kind of decides that he's going to unleash on people, and there's really nothing that you can do to stop him. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was a statement game, as
Totally.
I'd like to say, for Wilfredo Leon. I mean, I know I talked about it in my Superliga preview, and I know Dan from the 5-1 Volleyball podcast also talked about it. But I mean, I think Leon's legacy is coming into question this year. And for me, it seems like he really needed to nip everything in the butt right off the bat. As you mentioned, they had that poor performance in the Supercopa, and he just came to absolutely slay. I mean, 5 aces in the first set. We see it right there, 25-12. It was an absolute slaughtering. Now, I think we do absolutely have to put an asterisk on this because, I mean, could you have imagined last year at this time saying that Micheletto's was Trentino's hands down the best player? But that's exactly what he is.
Dude,
right?
that's exactly the point that I was just about to make. And I think Clayton Lucas said it on the broadcast. He's like, man, a year ago, this kid was like struggling a little bit to crack the starting lineup for Trentino. And then with the summer that he had, like VNL, Olympics, Eurovolley, and then U21s, he's now like pretty clearly, if not the best, at least like the most important player on that Trentino team. They've been running this kind of cool like 3 outside hitter system this year so far with the legend Matej Kaczynski back in Trentino and Daniele Lavia, who was not good the other day. And Micheletto, they're doing this 3 outside hitter thing, which has kind of been cool. But this time, without Micheletto, he rolled his ankle a couple games ago. They brought in Giulio Pinali to play like a more traditional opposite spot, and it was weird. Yeah, I agree, Everett, that like without Micheletto, they didn't have all that much of a chance, which is funny to say after the year that we've had. But I think that this is a really, really important stretch for Trentino coming up because they've got some really good matches coming up. I think they play Lube, Piacenza, and Modena, if I'm not mistaken. And those are obviously stacked matchups. And this is an opportunity for Giulio Pinali to come in at the opposite and kind of prove that he belongs there. Trentino will be playing a more traditional offense, and he's going to have to score some points and have to do so on decent efficiency until Micheletto comes back.
I also like how you brought up the fact that Matt Anderson quietly had a good game. And I've seen some comments around on the interwebs, not so much on the Discord because we know we've got knowledgeable people on the Discord, but that people who were, saying that Matt Anderson wasn't having a good season, that he was starting slow. And I don't know where these people are getting off because that's not the case that I'm seeing. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers right now. Sure, he's not blowing anyone out, like only 48 points. But when you have Wilfredo Leon, you don't need to be putting up a lot of points, but his efficiency right now, he's at 51% efficiency, which is absolutely insane. 2 errors on the season, no blocks. Like he hasn't been blocked at all year, and only 2 errors. So yeah, I think Matt Anderson is quietly having, the season that he needs to have to be a superstar throughout the entirety of the year. And I mean, let's be honest, he knows how to play right beside Wilfredo Leon. How many championships did they win together at Zenit Kazan? And, that's why it surprised me so much to see people trying to call out Anderson. It's like, bro, he's been superb for them, not to mention passing the majority of the balls.
Right. Yeah, I commentated a Perugia match a couple weeks ago. They played Taranto, who's like the A2 promoted team. They're not very good. Now they did take a set to their credit because Perugia inexplicably brought in a 6-2 and allowed Dragan Travica to see the court, which we all know around here is a mistake. But Anderson didn't even play the fourth set because he didn't have to. They brought in Ole Plotnicki, and he was terrific. He was really efficient. I don't think he made an error that match. And he's like a 34-year-old, like 6'10" L2 character. Like what a crazy luxury to have beside Wilfredo Leon. And I know there was not a lot of certainty around what position he was going to play coming in. Like a lot of us thought that he got signed to play opposite before they got Kamil Rykliski. And so they've kind of settled in with Anderson L2, Plotnicki as the third outside, and Rykliski at the opposite, who's been pretty good so far. And then you have Wilfredo Leon. It's like after the Super Cup where they got smoked by Trentino, I think they've kind of settled in on this lineup, and Anderson is never having to do more than he's comfortable with. He's never having to carry a massive load, and what he is expected to do, he is crushing. Over 50% efficiency already in like this sample size in the season is astronomical.
Yeah, huge. I mean, if we look at Rykliski, and they've got the same amount of sets on the year, 74, he's at 36% efficiency, and that's playing on the right side. So it kind of says to you a little something about how efficient and kind of the load that Matt Anderson has been taking on this team. First, he's taking most of the balls in service. If he's getting a good chunk of the offense, I think Matt Anderson is. I think Matt Anderson is going to be the key. If Perugia is to be successful this year, I think Matt Anderson, I mean, of course, we can talk about Gianelli as well, obviously, but Matt Anderson is secretly going to be the key to any Perugia success this year.
He's such a unique player, like in the Superliga right now. There's nobody who has an outside hitter of that caliber who is the second best scorer on his team.
Absolutely. Best P2 in the game, hands down.
I especially this club season, I don't think it's even close. So we'll talk about Perugia a little bit more later, but a really good, like convincing win over Trentino after the Super Cup, and they'll get a rubber match in that later in the regular season if they don't play in like the Coppa Italia or somewhere else. So